we've had a little bit of time since the Superman trailer dropped, which means that I've had a little bit of time to think about it. So here are some of the things that I noticed or I got wrong in my initial impressions, and just kind of some more deeper thinking with that as far as that's concerned. So Samoan Joseph 1457 mentioned that this scene right here where we see Clark and Jonathan Kent chatting on the porch, they believe that that's probably because Martha Kent is gone, which I think that would be interesting to see because we've never seen that before. You know, they're either both not there, they're either both dead, or Jonathan dies, which I love the relationship that Superman and Jonathan Kent have. It's so wholesome, and I love it, and I really want to see that in this movie, and it looks like we probably will. But to see them when they're both grieving the loss of Martha, we've never seen that before. That would be really fascinating. That would be a really interesting character study. So Harlem Boulevard mentioned that they've watched 36 reaction videos and no one's mentioned or noticed that in the opening scene, Superman is lying in a handprint. That's big. That's a huge notice. Good job. So that plays really well into one of my new theories in regards to this movie. So if we organize the trailer differently, rearrange some of the shots, then what we've got Superman walking towards Stag Industries. There's a big mob. They're upset at him. I mentioned he looked disheveled. It looks like he's just gotten out of a fire, but then we see him fighting this giant fire-breathing lizard thing. I think that's a Kryptonian monster. I think that's what we're seeing. We've seen in a few different places in Superman's history and comic books that a Kryptonian dragon or a Kryptonian monster from somewhere will just show up out of nowhere and then start fighting Superman, and he just gets to deal with it. But that would also explain why the Fortress of Solitude looks kind of messed up, why that robot looks really messed up, and would also kind of explain how Lex Luthor can turn everyone on Superman if the big disastrous thing that struck Metropolis was in a way Superman's fault. I think that's very fascinating. I think that handprint has to do with it. Alright, Crypto Eats the World 3379 said, I don't think Green Lantern and Hawkgirl are part of the Justice League. I don't think the Justice League exists yet. If you take a look at the costumes for Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, they have the same basic uniform. Also, the building they're in is Stag Industries. I think this might be a situation where Green Lantern and Hawkgirl are basically corporate heroes working for Stag and Superman is working on his own. I think what they're going for here is that it's currently a cynical type of world where a lot of heroes have kind of sold out, and Superman is someone who's trying to stand out and show a new way. That is beautiful, and I really, really like how you put that. I don't think I agree 100%. I think it is the Justice League, but I could see the Justice League having some kind of corporate sponsor. Now, the reason why I'm dead set on this being the Justice League is because it reminds me an awful lot of the Justice League from the early 90s, round about the time of the Death and Return of Superman arc. And thinking of that Justice League and the Justice League in that capacity, I think we see something really fascinating, really interesting pop out here, where Superman is the leader of the League, but he's doing it reluctantly. In the comics at that time, he was leading the League, but only because it was pretty clear that nobody else could do it. And this goes back and forth depending on the iteration that we're talking about. But at least post-Crisis Superman, he doesn't want to be leader of anything. He just wants to help people, and he's actually kind of annoyed that every time he walks into a room, everyone defers to him as if he knows all of the answers. He doesn't. So I'm still certain that this is the Justice League. Superman is leading the Justice League, but the League is also going to be either corporately or governmentally sponsored, and Superman is going to go against that. There was a statement brought up by James Gunn on Twitter where he said that the movie is very, very similar to a movie called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Now, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is a classic movie. It was directed by the same guy who did It's a Wonderful Life, as well as James Stewart was the lead actor in it. In that movie, Jimmy Stewart plays this guy who was appointed to the US Senate, not because he went through an election, but because he was like the backup guy that was appointed to it. And he was excited to go to Washington and make a big difference in the world. But then when he gets there, he finds that it's all super corrupt, and everyone who's working there is extremely selfish and corrupted and just terrible people. If this Superman movie is going to have a lot of the same tones as that, then I think we're going to see Superman join up with this Justice League and find out that they're all just super corrupt and they're not acting in the best interests of the people. Now, also, we gotta talk about Stag a little bit. Stag Industries, if they're running the Justice League, that means some really interesting things, because this guy that I thought was an alien menace is not actually an alien menace. That's Metamorpho. And Metamorpho is very, very much tied to Stag Industries and everything that they're doing. I think that might be a part of the conflict with the Justice League, is maybe Metamorpho was built as kind of a counter to Superman because he's going against what Stag Industries is willing to do. This does make me wonder, where does LexCorp and Lex Luthor fit into all of this? This scene right here where Superman is in containment, I want to believe that that's Luthor Corp. Especially like we see a somewhat similar set with this shot of Lex Luthor. I am curious how they're going to interact with each other. And that is another point that my friends have discussed a lot, and I've discussed a lot, and it is one of the points of concern I have about this movie, which is how many characters are in it, and then how many characters are in it but feel like they are kind of filling the same role. Now, James Gunn has a big history of working with big team movies, and their teams made up of characters that nobody knows. That's how he was so successful with Guardians of the Galaxy. He was able to just make a bunch of changes to these characters because nobody knew who any of these characters are. Star-Lord is completely different in the movie than he's ever been before the movie, and that's just the way that James Gunn works. There are a lot of characters in this movie, and there's a lot of obscure characters. I can see James Gunn just thinking, oh sweet, these are characters nobody knows. I can mess with them, I can play with them in ways that they've never been seen before. The movie might get distracted. I'm going to go forward with the belief that that's not going to happen. Though, like I said, if Stag and Lex Luthor are both existing, they kind of fill the same role in a lot of ways. They're both evil billionaires. So what's the distinction here? How are they going to play together? Also, we only got one shot of Metamorpho. I don't know what he's going to do in this movie. I still stand that Lex Luthor is going to be doing some kind of shenanigans in the background to turn the world against Superman. Though, if Metamorpho is not an alien threat, I don't know what the big space laser is. I don't know if that's Lex Luthor's doing or if that's somebody else. I don't think it would be Lex, but it could be. This movie's going to be fantastic. This movie could be DC's highest grossing movie ever, and I could see it beating a lot of Marvel's movies as well. I could see it getting just way up there, and it's going to change the way that we look at superhero movies forever. This is huge, and I'm hyping it up, and if it's not good, I'm going to look really silly. I guess come back here in July if it's not good and let me know. But I want to hear about your theories now that we've had some time and we could think about our own ideas of what the trailer is trying to say. There's some more theories out there. I want to hear what yours are. Go ahead and put them in the comments below. And until next time, thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and remember to always be your best self.